Welcome to Notes on a Painting. Notes on a Painting is a podcast by artist Olivia Kemp and art historian Esme Garlake. Together each week we will discuss a painting that one of us has chosen and researched. Our choices of painting will reflect where our tastes differ and overlap across the history of art.
Oh, hi.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm back home.
Me too.
We're done with
Back
the
from our...
travels.
Yeah, yeah.
But you did make it to Italy in the end, didn't you?
I did make it to Italy and it was amazing. And I saw the Mocking of Christ by Fra Angelico and it was incredible.
Yeah.
And they actually had a little mini Rothko exhibition in it. So they had placed certain Rothko paintings in the cell with
Mm.
certain ones. And so they actually had quite an early work by Rothko, which I didn't like so much in the Mocking of Christ one, which was a little bit distracting,
Yeah.
but it was amazing. So yeah, definitely worth visiting always.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this week, I have brought you a Spanish artist again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be anglicizing all the words because I just sound really pretentious when I try.
Yeah.
So this week we are looking at Francisco de Zurbarán, Saint Serapion, painted in 1628, and it lives in the Wadsworth Atheneum Museum of Art in Connecticut.
Mm.
And the sources for this week's episode are the Wadsworth Atheneum website, page on the painting, and the page on its restoration. Wikipedia, obviously, page on the artist. The National Gallery website, the Met Museum website page on Zurbarán, the Encyclopedia Britannica website page on the Mercedarian Order of Monks, and the Thyssen Museum website page on the artist as well. Would you
Nice.
like to describe the painting?
Yes, so this is a it's a very dark painting, dark background, but most of it is taken up by this figure in a white monk's habit. Really a lot of white fabric
Mm.
over like flowing in different directions or hanging in different directions. Um and there's one figure in it. It's a man who is has his arms held tied up by ropes to trees, I think. Although the background, this is where I often say the reproduction is tricky with the lighting, because the background is really dark brown, but you can kind of vaguely make out some vertical shapes. And yeah, the figure appears to be unconscious or maybe even dead. His head is hanging against hanging against his shoulder and his arm, one of his arms to the side. And yeah, it's a very stark image. It's very poignant, I would say, just because of the limpness in his head and in his arms, but he's being held up. And then in the middle of the painting, really, there's a kind of crest or insignia sign, which I'm sure has to do, I don't know, has to do with the monks, or I'm sure you'll say something about that. But and then to the very right of the painting, strangely, it's like there's a little trompe of a piece of paper with a bit of writing on it, and it's the strange thing is that it seems to be like a pin is put in it, which I suppose is against like the tree or the background. But yeah, um, I don't know why I always struggle to describe
You
the.
don't struggle, you just always say that you do.
I find it really hard, like, because I think you always think, what should I say first? Like, do I say the obvious that it's a man, or do I say, like, is it light and dark? Or anyway, it's a really striking painting. I'm excited. I hadn't seen it before.
Mm.
So I'm excited to learn about it and about Zurbarán because I don't really know a lot about him.
No, I felt the same. Like,
Mm.
visually, I feel like I know a lot about him, but in terms of facts about Zurbarán, I've got very little.
Wow. Mm.
So, Francisco de Zurbarán is considered by some to be the greatest painter of the Golden Age in Spain after Velázquez. And he could also potentially be considered more representative of tastes and life at the time, as unlike Velázquez, he didn't work mostly at the Spanish court. He moved around and accepted commissions. Um, so it's a little bit more indicative of what the taste was, particularly in southern Spain, where he was
Mm.
based. He was born in 1598 in Fuente de Cantos, Extremadura. His father, Luis de Zurbarán, was a haberdasher, and his mother was Isabel Marquez. He is known to have been interested in making drawings of objects with charcoal from a very young age, which I feel like there's always a line about from a very young age.
I want to find someone who is like, actually, I think there is one. I'll think about it. But someone who wasn't this prodigy.
I think that there are a few that start
Yeah.
one career and try a few things, but
Mm,
quite often the line from a very young age comes
mm.
up.
I suppose also so many of them it's a trade that's passed on and that's something that really shifts later on, doesn't it? In I guess like the much more modern artist.
Yeah, and that
Um
need to find a trade quickly. You
yeah,
start working younger,
yeah.
so it just
And
seems
then
more.
the way that guilds worked as well, with like, a haberdasher would have been connected to artists' guild in some ways, or like metalwork and then
Yeah,
printing. And so, yeah, it seems like in our modern context that they were all just these prodigies, but it's a whole like network, isn't it? A
mm,
way that artists were trained that, yeah,
yeah,
it doesn't really translate today.
no. When he was 16, he was sent to be an apprentice under the artist Pedro Diaz de Villanueva in Seville for 3 years, and very little was known about Pedro Diaz at all.
Mm.
It's a bit of a mystery what he learnt there. When he was 19, Zurbarán married Maria Payet, who was 9 years older than him. They had 3 children together. And then Zurbarán established a workshop in Llerena, which was some 60 miles north of his birthplace. And he lived there for more than 10 years. And his son, Juan de Zurbarán, was born there in 1620. And he went on to also become a painter, apprenticing under his father. Unfortunately, his wife Maria died in 1624 after bearing him 3 children.
Mm.
He married again not long after in 1625.
Whoa.
Yeah, a wealthy widow, Beatrice de Morales. I guess he had 3 kids to support, so
A wealthy widow. Yeah, a good
yeah,
call.
makes sense. On the 17th of January, 1626, Zurbarán took on a commission that would really establish his name as a painter, particularly of religious subjects. He
Mm.
signed a contract with the prior of the Dominican monastery San Pablo el Real in Seville, agreeing to produce 21 paintings within 8 months. And I looked that up, and that's about 2.5 paintings a month.
2.5 paintings every month. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm assuming he had assistants by that point if he had a workshop in
Yeah,
Lorena.
I think so.
But that's a lot still.
Mm.
Zurbarán's clientele was mostly restricted to clergy at this point, but he was nonetheless more representative of 17th century Spain. On the Met Museum website, it says of him, his approach to his spiritual subjects reflects the authority of tradition, the demands of doctrine, and the requirements of patrons and of the public, for whom the story, not the style, was the essence of a work of art.
Okay. So he's very religious then,
Yes, and he's
is what this
living
is
in
saying.
Catholic
Yeah.
Spain, which we know, had its constraints in terms of
Yeah.
art and in terms of subject matter, and what's going on at the court isn't necessarily indicative of what's going on in the rest of the country. So
Mm.
someone like Velasquez is more indicative of court
Mm.
fashions and European taste. It's coming flowing in through the court much earlier than it would be hitting the rest
Mm.
of Spain, I assume. So
Mm. Yeah.
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 On the 29th of August, 1628, Zurbarán was commissioned by the Mercedarian Order of Seville to produce 22 paintings for the cloister of their monastery. One of the works he produced is the painting we're looking at today. The Mercedarians were a Catholic religious order established in Spain in 1218 for the specific purpose of ransoming captive Christians from the Moors during the Crusades. So they would pay the ransoms or give themselves as a ransom.
That is wild.
Mm.
So the
Yeah.
Moors would have Christian crusaders holding
Mhm.
the ransom, saying you need to give us money, and then this order was established to pay the ransom.
Yeah.
Wow. It's basically to facilitate the Crusades.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's why they're doing it, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
As it was for the ransom of captives, it was originally a military order, i.e., a brotherhood of knights.
Hmm.
The habit of the Mercedarian is white, which was originally to facilitate entrance into Muslim territories. The Mercedarians also wear a wide leather belt with a chain, suggesting the sword that all members once customarily wore. In
Mm.
addition to the usual three religious vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, the Mercedarians take a fourth vow, which is sometimes known as a blood vow, to offer themselves as hostages for Christian prisoners in danger of losing their faith, or for the liberation of people who are held captive or oppressed. And this vow includes giving up one's life if necessary.
That's kind of wild. Are
Mm.
they still going on?
I think they are, but there's very few
They're not
monasteries
doing.
and orders now. I was
Okay.
reading a bit about them, and it seems like every few years it's sort of getting to be a much, much, much smaller order.
Yeah. It's very, yeah, it's an interesting overlap of military and Christian faith like
Yeah.
that. The fact that
Yeah.
it's actually a vow in it as
Hmm.
well. I remember when we were at school, we did the Crusades, and they were talking about look the Christian doctrine, like the fact that it's not, it was that they don't have jihad. It's
Mm.
not the same, like of what is it? Yeah, you can't kill for your faith.
Yeah.
Um, it's like not in the doctrine. So it's interesting. Yeah, it's just fascinating the ways that it's got around. There are always loopholes and there
Yeah.
are always
Just
but here
establish
it's
a band
like
of knights or something, and then
yeah, exactly. Like it's not as if Christian history isn't like killing people because they're not Christian. Like um so yeah, interesting. I hadn't heard
mm.
of them.
No,
Did they start in Spain? Yeah.
yeah, they started in
Yeah.
Spain in
Okay.
1218.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Mercedarian texts state that Serapion, a Scotsman, once served in the armies of Richard the Lionheart and Leopold VI
Hmm.
during the time of the Crusades. And one website said his name was Serapion Scott, and the other one said that he was a Scotsman. I'm assuming he was given the surname Scott because he was a Scotsman or something. But anyway,
Yeah.
we can assume he was Scottish.
It's kind of cool he was Scottish. I mean, he came a
Yeah.
long way. I did not look at this man and think he was Scottish.
No, no, I didn't either, but. Zurbarán didn't really travel other than Spain, so that would be
Yeah.
another
Yeah, true.
indicated there the wealth of subject matter.
Yeah.
So he became a professed member of the Mercedarians in 1222, and there are various accounts as to his death. I found three different versions of how he
Mm.
died. So, so although the fact that he was martyred in service to the order doesn't seem to waver,
Mm.
the most authoritative account comes from the early annals of the Mercedarians. Captured in Scotland by English pirates, Serapion was bound by the hands and feet to two poles, and then he was beaten, dismembered, and disemboweled. Finally, his neck
Oh,
was partly severed,
oh,
leaving his head
oh.
to dangle.
Oh, no, that's what's happening in this. The dangling head.
Well, I think this is the moment before.
Okay,
We
good.
get into that a bit as well.
Yeah.
But so this is the supposedly the most realistic version. However, he is known as Serapion of Algiers, as the other account of his death has it happening in Algiers.
Mhm.
And he's said to have given himself as ransom for other Christians and is eventually crucified when the ransom isn't paid. So
Mhm.
he's yeah. So it's a bit confusing because one is from the Mercedarian text and the other one is what he's now known as.
Yeah.
So yeah, and there's a third version, but I didn't get into the third version because it seemed like the least likely.
Yeah. But surely the most likely is that he put himself up for ransom.
Well, for being martyred and for being made a
Yeah.
saint, that makes sense because he would be completing, the final sacrifice of the
Yeah.
Mercedarian orders, main
Yeah.
purpose. So that makes sense to me, and that's potentially what's happening in the painting. But I guess the other version could be happening too. I don't
Yeah.
really know.
Mm.
But yeah, interesting. Pope Benedict the 13th, I believe. XIII, that's 13, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, declared Serapion a martyr and approved his veneration in the Order of Mercedarians by decree in 1728. So that's interestingly after this painting was officially
Mm.
was painted. He wasn't approved as a martyr until 100 years later. So we can be sure that the Mercedarian order already venerated him.
Mm.
And he is remembered on November the 14th is his saint day,
Mhm.
just in case you fancied.
I was gonna say I haven't heard the name before.
And you'd think you'd remember it as well.
Yeah.
It must be. I wonder if he's more heard of in Spain.
Yeah, probably. I mean, my mum and my aunt were both given Catholic names, 'cause their parents were Catholic converts and they always got little presents on their saint day,
Mm,
which is really sweet. And I kind of like the idea of a saint's day, like you're
yeah.
named after a saint. So I wonder if in Spain there are kids. I've never heard in Spain that name
It's
before, but
Serapions.
Serapion, Serapion. Is
Yeah.
it the same word in Spanish?
I don't know.
Será, será. Yeah,
I
I'll have.
assume so. I think when I was looking on other websites, it was coming up the same.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
as it's in America, hard to know.
yeah, true.
So, as you mentioned with the depiction of him, Zurbarán chose not to represent the saint's gruesome death, but shows him tied in a position that foreshadows his martyrdom and reminds us of his crucifixion.
Mm,
And Zurbarán proudly signed and dated his work in the little creased note at the centre right of the painting.
mm,
The painting originally hung in the room where the monks' bodies were prepared for burial, and Zurbarán's intense masterwork of humble yet noble sacrifice would have been used to provide spiritual inspiration for those laying their brothers to rest.
mm. It is definitely very solemn, isn't
Mm,
it? And yeah, poignant and powerful. It's like the less is more kind of thing.
yeah, which is interesting
Yeah.
because some of his other work, sorry, I've got a bit cold. Some of his other work can be quite melodramatic with, people's
Mm.
faces up to the light and holding skulls
Yeah.
and a bit more intense. And somehow, even though this is a depiction of a crucifixion, it does have a quietness to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the painting was restored in 2015 as it had suffered significant paint losses in certain areas over time and
Mm.
due to environmental conditions. The restoration was done with the advice of multiple restorers, art historians, an artist, and a hand surgeon.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah. So
That's
I believe there had been significant paint losses to the hand, um, and they had official proper advice.
That's amazing. Imagine being that hand surgeon. You'd be like, wow, like crossing boundaries.
Part of the story of a Zurbarán,
Yeah.
something that's hundreds and hundreds of years old.
Yeah. I mean, the hands are particularly amazing, like the way that they hang.
Mm.
Yeah.
The conservators removed yellowed varnish and older discolorated restorations, and this revealed various shades of white and strengthened the contrasts between light and shadow in the
Mm.
work once again.
Mm.
So by the time Zurbarán had completed this work, he was already one of the most famous and important painters in the whole of Andalusia, and his workshop was quite large.
Mm.
And after this work's completion in 1629, the elders of Seville invited Zurbarán to relocate permanently to the city. His paintings had gained such high reputation that he would increase the reputation of the city of Seville by living there and working out of Seville. He accepted the invitation and moved to Seville with his wife, Beatriz de Morales, and the three children from his first marriage, a relative called Isabel de Zurbarán, and 8 servants. Sadly, in May 1639, his second wife, Beatriz de Morales, passed away.
Mm.
His career at this point was wholly confined to Spain and very profitable.
Mm.
His subjects were mostly darker works and religious vigils, and the compositions were often reduced to a single figure.
Mm.
And Zurbarán's reducing down of a scene or a narrative to a single person often makes the actions depicted in the compositions more difficult to interpret without foreknowledge of the subject or the saint.
Mm.
So, just like this work, you don't get the saint's story
Mm.
unless you know the story of
Mm.
that saint. Do you know what I mean? Often you get these
Yeah.
works of art and they tell a bit more of the story of the saint. You might get two
Yeah.
scenes, or you might get what's going on around the crucifixion, an idea of what country they're in,
Yeah.
and what's happening and what they've done, or their miracles. And unless you know it's Saint Serapion, and you just
Yeah.
they're harder to read without a lot of prior religious knowledge, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's one Zurbarán in the National Gallery in London, which is of Saint Margaret, and
Mm.
that one, she looks like a an ordinary woman, really. She's stood there. It's an amazing painting. Again, it's that single figure, the light on her face, quite somber,
Mm.
with a dark background. But in the bottom, by her feet, there's I remember she wears amazing sandals, but by her feet, there's a dragon, and that is key in Saint Margaret.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of attribute. But again, you wouldn't really know that. That's a small clue, but it's not. Yeah, I'm thinking like when you were saying the kind of paintings that give you the story. Like when I was in Italy, I was in Bologna for a bit and saw some of those medieval, like the predella panels, or like or even altarpieces where you've got a whole saint's life laid out, you know?
Yeah. In
Um,
scenes, one at a time.
yeah, it's a storybook picture, and these are not that at all. This is like you have the prior knowledge, absolutely. But I do think the emotions still come through, don't they, with
Yeah.
it? That's the thing, that the kind of intensity and the drama is, I guess, it's like a more kind of introspective drama. This
Mm.
one definitely, like
Yeah.
it quiet but very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely not completely opaque. You don't approach them and there's no entry point, but it's just a totally different, like for me, in my
Mm.
experience of paintings of saints, it's a very different entry point
Yeah.
to have to come at it with some prior knowledge,
Yeah.
or just to take it as a visual if you don't have that knowledge, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
So he's often compared to Caravaggio, but we don't
Mm.
know if he ever saw Caravaggio's work,
Mm.
because he didn't travel. And it's more reserved than Caravaggio, and the color tone is quite often less warm than Caravaggio's as
Mm.
well.
Interesting.
And the backgrounds are often featureless and dark. And Zurbrand has said, this I contest. He's said to have difficulty painting deep space, but I'm not sure how that's proven. I don't know, to me that feels like a choice, not, I don't know how you can be that great at painting and not understand space.
True. Yeah, true, because it is space as well. Like
Mm.
in this one, like the composition is space, isn't it? It's like are they saying deep space, like perspective far into the distance kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It's sort of indicating that it's painted in a style because he couldn't do that sort of larger
yeah.
scene. I
Yeah,
don't.
I would also be a bit wary of that, but not not knowing like hardly basically what you've said about Zurbarán is what
Mm.
now my knowledge of him is. But I would still say like he's an amazing painter.
I'm sure if he wanted to paint deep space, he
Yeah,
could.
yeah. But clearly it was working for him, having that like like the focus on the figure
Yeah, yeah.
works.
Because
Yeah.
the other kind of work he's known for is still life, which again is not the
Mm.
deepest of space. It's
Yeah,
another.
well, it's like we were saying in the Jura episode about the choice to have a blank background. it allows you to focus on what's in the foreground, obviously. And
Yeah.
it would like if this had a whole perspective in the background, like a Renaissance, like Italian Renaissance altarpieces so often have that, don't they? With like all of those layers going back
Yeah.
into the distance. It's a completely different effect then
Yeah.
on the figures in the foreground. So yeah, who
Yeah,
knows? It's
and
one
when
of
you look
those,
at what other painters at the time were doing,
yeah.
um, like Matteo Carezza, I think, and Juan
Mm,
Sanchez Cotan, and like
mm.
style of painting, like Ribera.
Yeah,
It's all.
yeah.
It's not just he's not an outlier. Like, oh, he failed to paint deep space, so he had to paint like this. Do you know
I
what I
feel
mean?
like he could have learned it anyway if he wanted to, but I'm like, it's again, it's that thing of artist intention, which you can just never know. It's
Yeah,
more that we know he doesn't really do deep space.
yeah,
That's yeah.
yeah.
I'd bet on that he could, he just didn't.
He didn't fancy it, all right?
Yeah, get off his back.
So towards 1630, he was appointed painter to Philip IV, and he moved to Madrid to decorate the Hall of Realms in the Buen Retiro Palace with a series of 10 canvases. I think around this time was when Velázquez was also painting
Mm.
in the Buen Retiro, and others quite a lot of Spanish artists were coming in to
Mm.
contribute to the Buen Retiro Palace, which is why it's such a shame that we don't have it.
It's the one that burnt down, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. I got that wrong before. I got my palaces muddled once, but yes.
That is, oh God, it's so painful. Think
Yeah.
about that. Ah,
Escorial stands. Buen Retiro is just a park.
that's, yeah. Yeah.
So there is a story that on one occasion the king had his hand on the artist's shoulder and said, "Painter to the king, king of painters."
Ooh.
Ooh. Hard
Nice.
to know if that's accurate, or the
Yeah.
source, but it's quite the moniker, I think,
Yeah.
But after about 1640, his more austere style was more unfavorably viewed and started to fall a little out of fashion compared
Mm,
to the sweeter and sentimental religious images of painters like Murillo.
mm,
And his reputation declined to a degree,
mm.
not fully. By the late 1630s, his workshop was starting to produce many paintings that were intended for export to South America.
Interesting.
Because there was a lot of missionary work out there. He was
Yeah.
working with monasteries that were sending people out there, so it's all very
Mm.
interlinked.
Yeah.
So Jacob and his 12 sons, a series depicting the patriarch Jacob and his 12 sons, seems to have been aimed at the South America market, but the original works were acquired for Auckland Castle in Bishop Auckland, County Durham.
Yeah. A
And that
great collection of Spanish art up there.
is on my list. I have
Oh,
to
it's so
go.
good.
Yeah, next time I'm back up that way, I have to.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like a far drive anymore, not after driving to Scotland.
Yeah, true, actually. Yeah.
So on the 7th of February, 1644, Zurbarán married a third time, another wealthy widow, Leonor de
Nice.
Tordes. um, it was only 1658, late in Zurbarán's life, that he eventually moved to Madrid in search of work and renewed his contact with Velázquez.
Mm.
Popular myth has Zurbarán dying in poverty, but at his death, the value of his estate was about 20,000 reals. And that amount of money does constitute elite status in Spain at the time. Eight
Uh-huh.
reals was a significant daily wage. It was what would be
Okay.
afforded to soldiers and skilled workers.
Yeah.
So 20,000 of a
Yeah.
significant weight is, that's a decent amount. He died in 1664 and was buried in the church of Recoletos, Agostinos Descalzos. Later, the church was demolished and his body is now lost.
Oh, wow. That's quite unusual for someone who was known well at the time.
Mm. Yeah, I went on findagrave.com. I forgot to put that on my on my sources. But yeah, no, I checked a few places and it does appear that his body is believed to be lost.
Wow. Because in Italy, there were so many artist tombs, like
Mm.
that's quite a big thing, isn't it? If
Well,
if
my
the artist
grandma's
is
tomb
well
is a big
known.
thing.
Yeah, literally, it's huge. It was Michelangelo's tomb. I saw that Vasari, I think, that he designed, and it was crazy.
We keep saying we're going to do an episode on Vasari, and it keeps not happening. So,
Well, I saw so many Vasari paintings, and I think I actually need to send you the photo because I took photos of every one to send to you to be like, oh, look. I also saw some Lavinia Fontana as
oh
well.
yes, she's
Yeah.
on my episode list at the
Yeah.
moment.
So
I'm trying to spread it out a little.
I know. And I was seeing so much that I was like, okay, you need to rein it in. You can't just send all the photos.
I would have
Yeah.
loved it. It would be great.
Yeah. No, I will after this. I will send you them.
Excellent.
But yeah, so I guess
last
that
point is
yeah.
that Zurbarán is the subject of a major exhibition at the National Gallery at the moment, and the show features almost 50 major works by the artist. Some beautiful works from the Prado Museum are present, including
Wow.
works of saints and his amazing painting Agnus Dei of the sheep.
Oh, that is incredible.
Love that painting.
Yeah, I need to go and see it. ASAP.
Amazing.
Thank you for joining us this week. We can never be 100% sure of the accuracy of historical events. However, the information we are providing is based on our own research. If there's a painting you'd like to hear us discuss, please let us know on social media. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe for weekly episodes.